Ever feel like this? Oh, there's one Common App due November 1st. Seniors got to get on that. That's the AP homework you forgot. That's next period. I'm really sorry, guys. Oh yeah, your boss forgot to send you your schedule. You gotta email him. You missed a shift because you didn't get the schedule. What can you do about that? That stress is always there. It always feels like there's a deadline. The next one's coming up. It's all counting down, second by second. There are mental health. There are so many resources for helping mental health, but there's one that not everyone thinks about. That's all around us. This one.
Yeah, that's your pointing right to that computer.
Is this the clicker? Oh, yep, that's the clicker. Okay. And that's nature. There are so many studies that show that just going out in nature, there was a study that was taken by Stanford where participants took a 90-minute walk in nature and other participants took a 90-minute walk next to a highway. The people next to the highway had no change in their stress levels, but people who walked in nature for 90 minutes, was about a 20% decrease of stress. There was another study done somewhere in England where they looked at an aerial view and they said, what is the foliage cover of this area? Then they also went through and they also counted birds at different times of day, like when people would be seeing them when driving to and from work. And the areas with better foliage and more birds had people with less severe mental health issues. This all ties into a bigger concept called biophilia. This was proposed by a Harvard biologist, Wilson, and it talks about how humans have an innate connection with nature that can help boost productivity, boost focus, boost your mental health, where people will just feel better in nature. You see this when people have office blends. It's not always it affecting us, but us affecting our surroundings to help this kind of thing where people put up office plants, people put up fake office plants, people put up postcards of the Yosemite or things like that, where just that connection with the outdoors and with nature has a positive impact on people. There was a company that they changed their building and they moved to a place next to a prairie. And they refurbished the prairie, they helped natural plants go back there, and then they put in so many lights, or so many skylights, so many windows, and so many paths through that prairie, and their productivity even was boosted by 20%, as well as workers reporting to be happier. So another part of my project was I did trail service this summer. These are the GPS recordings of me walking out there and cutting for an hour, 3 hours, somewhere between there, just cutting branches. And I went out with someone who works with Bow Open Spaces. His name is Jeffrey Warner. And he taught me all about how trails are cut so that they're flatter, and how to map where a good trail would be, where it shouldn't be at the bottom of a valley because then water is going to rush it out. And then you can see here's the reroute that I completed before and after, where the trail used to go onto private property, and then the private property owners didn't want it anymore, and so we had to reroute about a tenth of a mile course. And so that's what I spent 15 hours working on. And so that brings me to another point about how communities can help nature, where, and especially nature access. And so there are trail groups. This is people helping Bow Open Spaces on a trail care day. And you can see they're putting in a bridge, and a lot of the bridges tend to not be the best taken care of, and so over time they're just really helped out by these trail care days. So on the day of the race, I hosted a race for my senior project, by the way. On the day of the race, there was this big log, or the night before, there was a big log across the trail that was mountain biking, putting out signs, and I just see it, and I didn't know it was there because I hadn't been on the trails for a while, and I didn't know what to do, so I just put a sign on the other side and said, go over. 2 days later, I went back there to pick up all the signs, and it had been cut. I don't know who did the cutting. Just out of the blue, some community member went out there with his chainsaw, cut that log, those 2 logs actually, and cleared up the path for the community to use. Here are photos of my race. We had about 25 people participate. Miss Power took these photos. What I did for my race is I first kind of came up with the idea. I talked with Mr. DeAngelis a lot. He was my mentor. And then after that, I drafted up some maps and I contacted different people. My original idea was to contact the Audubon and host the race there and have it be a fundraiser for the Audubon. And that was going to be super cool, but then they never responded to my emails. So I contacted Bow Pioneers, and then they didn't respond either. And so I had to go to my not third choice, but the next person that came up on the list was Bow Parks and Rec. And so they kind of set me in the right direction, saying, okay, you need to go in front of the Board of Selectmen and figure out what days are going to work, when it's going to work, and then you need to rent the community building because I needed it for parking. And so I went, I drafted up my maps, I emailed the Bow Board of Selectmen, and then I went in for a meeting and I presented, and they're like, okay, you got to go to this other commission. And so then a week later, I drafted up, I got all my papers ready, and then I went to the next commission, and I went to the Conservation Commission, and I said, I will keep these trails clean for my race. And so after the race, I went and I picked up my 400 signs and made sure that there wasn't any trash left from the race. And so that's kind of how to please the Bow town government if you're worried. And so then after that, I started having to fill out paperwork for Parks and Rec so that I could rent the community building. And then since I'm a student, I got Mr. DeAngelis to sign a paper saying he can use this building for free. And so I didn't have to spend a cent on this project. It was pretty cool. And so I used the community building for free because Bow allows students and teachers and a couple other people in Bow to rent the community building totally for free. And so we used that site for parking and for bathrooms and just as kind of headquarters. And then I had to advertise, and that was a mess. So first I sent out one email to someone saying, hey, can you put my link registration on your newsletter? And then 2 people signed up, and I was like, great. And so then I goaded all my friends into signing up, and so I got 2 of my friends to show up, which is cool. And then the week before the race is coming down the line, I just sent 5 emails to Bow Open Spaces and Bow PD and just a whole bunch of other organizations to say, hey, can you just put this on your Facebook page? Can I come talk to the cross-country team so that people hear about this race and so they can come? And so then we ended up having about 40 registrations, but day of, we had about 25 people show up, which I was incredibly happy with the numbers. And so that brings me to my last global point of how nature can help the community. This is a photo of the Bow Open Spaces Sunday walks. Over the summer, every Sunday, they held a walk, 1 hour, 2 hours, somewhere between there. And it was led by Mrs. Dolcino led a lot of them. And they just went and walked around some of the trail systems in Bow. You can also see, this is Bow Pioneers, the ones who didn't respond to my email. But they didn't have jurisdiction, so I was barking up the wrong tree. And they're just a snowmobile club that goes out and they snowmobile around, I guess, I don't know what a snowmobile club does. But they're a really good example because they use these natural resources, but they also help the access to these natural resources. The major bridges in all the trails over rivers, or not rivers, but streams, are put in by the bow pioneers because they wouldn't be able to go through the water. And so, in summation, this is the school is right about here. And so this is literally in our backyards. It's a great resource. They are super well-maintained trails. I'd put 15 hours of work into them this summer. I know. They're beautiful. There's wide trails. There are narrow trails. If you ever have free time, I really couldn't recommend more going out there. It's a great place to clear your head for a walk. It's a great place to run. It's a great place to mountain bike. Anything like that. So here are what the signs look like. So you can go and help those trail care days. I know on the 13th or 14th of October, Bow Open Spaces is having a trail care day, and so I would implore all of you to check it out and think about it, see what you can do about that. And then there we are, Bow High School, and everyone knows every day there's tons of traffic leaving the building. You can't get around it. There's one exit. Nothing you can do. But maybe instead of just parking in your car in that line of traffic, you could take a walk down to Turry Pond. It's a beautiful pond. It doesn't get you out of your way. You can jump back in that line of traffic 10 minutes later. But instead of being stressed in your line of traffic stopping and starting, you can go and enjoy the view at Turry Pond or walk some of the Bow trails, or the high school trails, excuse me. Or you could even do something as simple as put a houseplant in your room. Or for your seniors, I'm planning on putting a houseplant in my dorm room, or flowers or something like that, just because it has such a positive impact on focus.